What's up, Jared?
I hear you. Are you Samantha Woodward, sir? Oh no, you're on mute.
Oh,
There you
there I am. So, no, I'm Sam's husband.
Okay, gotcha.
Got it.
Cool. Okay, I just want to make sure everything was okay. You're the only one I've heard so far, but
Okay.
okay.
So I can't hear Jared. Did you?
I can't hear Jared either. Mm-mm.
Oh, my mic was off. I was talking to you guys. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Awesome.
I was like, people are quiet, man. What's going on? Like, I'm talking to them and no one's answering.
You're the quiet one, sir.
Apparently, yeah. Like, I'm not mute on Zoom, so like, I thought it was totally fine. Yeah. Never mind. That's funny.
Thank you, Samantha's husband. I mean, Sam's husband.
It's his real name is Papa Woody. That's the
Well,
that's the bee's knees right there.
Michael,
that's Papa
Michael
Woody.
Huggins kept blocking me on Zoom because he thought I was some scammer. So I got to go change my name.
Stop scamming, man. Tell you what.
Yeah, I know, right?
I like your name. It's a cool name.
No, thanks.
For sure. 100%. Well, awesome, guys. Cool. So, yeah. So what I was saying when you guys couldn't hear me, we have like, gosh, let's see. I think we have like 10 people in deals right now in the games. Because we have, let's do a tally real fast. Let me get some numbers because I like to see. All right. So we have, and that's not counting working on deals. They're actually like in deals, right? So, I might went blank here. So like um, the twins, so Nick and Zach, they're in a deal. And Zach, and then we have oh my gosh, what is her name? Oh my heck, dude. Anyways, it's gonna bug me. Holy heck, what's wrong with me?
Is it the girl Jemiah
Yes,
Mautry?
yes, Jemiah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. I talk to her like once every day, and she's and I can't believe I just spaced for a second. So
It happens as you
Jemiah-
age, Jared. You can't help
Yeah.
it. Teasing.
Yeah. I mean, even in early 40s, like it's like, yeah, I feel it. Jemiah, and we have Sam and Papa Woody. You know, so they're in a deal right now. We have Eric just got into a deal, which is awesome. So it was so cool. Like he had me talking to him on Wednesday, and I walked him through like how to negotiate because he works can't be on like these calls, and I walked him through like like how to negotiate and all that stuff and he was nervous because the guy wanted 600,000. Like he said he wouldn't take anything less than 600,000, and we did analysis, and the max offer was 390. And it's like, dude, that's $210,000 less than he wants. So yeah, but that's your number. If he can't give you that, then we can't do it, or then you shouldn't do it, I should say, because it's a bad deal otherwise. And the guy took his offer. In fact, they're going to do like some sort of partnership where he gets a cut of the profits. And in that case, I'm telling like, well, don't buy it. Just do the partnership, do joint venture, get on title, your notice of interest, so get that on title, and then have him, and then so basically it's already like funded for him too. So Eric,
Hey, I have a question.
yes,
So I know you told us yesterday to come up with some questions about creative financing and stuff, but
yes,
I couldn't come up with any. But I do have a question about this deal because you talked about that yesterday, and I was like, wow, that's a lot off. Can you just like, briefly kind of go through like just, basically the different kind of things that y'all said or how y'all got him to come down to that number? Like what kind of things you just, I know they're the things you probably always tell us to say, but I would just like to hear them in action.
Sure. So I was not even part of the conversation.
Oh, you don't know how he said it exactly, or?
I told him how to do it and went over like what to say, what to do, and then yeah, that's on him. I mean, he did it. I love to take credit for it, but no, it's him.
Wow.
You just need a little bit of coaching and confidence. That's all you need.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
So were there a lot of repairs? Like what kind of things?
Yeah, so we did the analysis, and I don't know what the inside is. We did analysis as if it's a full rehab. So even if it is bad inside, like 390, it'll make sense.
Well, the guy must have, I imagine it must be some things going on inside, or he would never have agreed to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Okay.
and we were looking at the comps for a long time because there's a secondary unit, and I pointed out like this is like an ADU, and the guy was he was pricing it as if it was like a duplex basically. That's kind of where
What's
he was
an
getting.
ADU?
It's just like a mother-in-law apartment or a separate building that's another
Okay.
unit. The thing is with ADU, and this is something I told him, that the cities, for the most part, like you can do ADUs, you can do mother-in-law apartments as much as you want, as long as, and every city is a little different, but like for the most part, so as long as the seller or the owner lives in one of the units, like that's totally fine. Like there's no problems with that whatsoever. Like 99% of the cities are just totally fine with that. But if it's because it's zoned for residential single unit, and so if the city caught wind of an investor buying a property or like that's renting out both units, they don't live in either one, that's when the city can really be a biggest pain in the butt. So it's great for someone who wants to house hack, like they want to live in one unit and rent out the other one. Like that's like that'd be like the ideal scenario for someone like that. But for like an investor that wants to come in, fix it up, and maybe keep it, or even on the resale trend, sell in a higher value, like it's not as great. So I pointed that to him. I'm not sure if he mentioned that to him or not, but it's the same stuff that I was talking about yesterday is what we talked about. It was like, okay, what you need to do is just really find out what their pain point is, like asking them, using techniques like mirroring, using techniques like active listening, and just using silence to the best of your ability. It's going to get so much more information, so much more data than you can even imagine, right? And then I told him to sandwich it. I'm not even sure if he sandwiched it or not, but I'm gonna talk with him today after he gets off of work. I'm sorry, excuse me. And I'm gonna find out what happened, because that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting. Please do
Mhm.
fill us in. Like,
Yeah.
what made him change his mind? What tactics did he use? And I'd love to hear how the deal was structured also.
Yeah.
That's something that I kind of, maybe my mind doesn't have enough knowledge or experience to think of creative types of deal structures
hmm
probably, but so that's why I'd be interested in that. So that would be cool though if you
Well,
are able to tell us.
and I think Bruce asked a good question. Like, is there like a list or something that we can look at and see about like what are some different structures to what are the tools that we can use to pull out of a
Yeah,
tool belt?
good
So
idea.
I'm going to be making that too, to just for everyone to have, and just and the list I make is not the end all be all. There are going to be like 100 more past that. Well, maybe not 100, but a lot more past what I could come up with and put into a ready, easy to use to for a list. So we'll see.
Checklist.
Yeah, for checklist.
Cool. Thank you.
Forgot. Anyways,
What's his plan with the house? Is he wholesaling it or flipping it or what?
so here's the thing. So originally he wanted to wholesale it. But with the owner wanting to be like in a partnership, like I'm not sure how easy that's going to be a wholesale. So the more complex
Right.
it is,
That's what I was wondering.
the harder it is to wholesale, right? So someone that might understand, like, oh yeah, cool, I'll That makes sense. Yeah, I've done partnerships with sellers before. Let's do this. But for like a flipper that's their only tool belt is flipping, and then they're not really used to being creative, or you know what I mean. They'll get stuff from wholesalers and agents, and they're not like out there grinding, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's awesome. They're doing flips. Like what? Nothing wrong with that. So some of them they're not going to be as like receptive to a deal like a partnership. So I'm not buying the property, but then I don't know if you do your mass email outright, and then you're messaging your buyers, the ones that you think that would probably be interested, something like this directly, and getting the calls, then yeah, you probably could wholesale it. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I need to, when I talk with him today, find out the exact terms and what we can do. Then I think we'll have a better understanding what the deal is, right? So yeah, it's cool. I can't even remember what was his ARV on that. I can look. If you guys want to see the numbers on the deal, I'm sure you won't mind if you share.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
please. Yeah, I couldn't come off mute.
You're good. Okay, perfect. No worries. Oh yeah. 8 people. It's 8 people that are in the field, by the way, right now that are in the games. There's only like 25 of us. It's less than 30. Like, cause I haven't necessarily marketed the games as much as I should, but that's why our group's kind of small. But still, 25 people, so 8 people out of 25, and we're just barely past or starting the 5th week. It's pretty good. Properties. Oh, did I share my screen yet? No.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So kudos to everyone, and a lot of close calls too, right? So that's good too. You know, Rachel, we had a really close one until the guy just like ghosted us. That's just going to happen sometimes, right? But even with the closed calls, someone Sandy, no, that's the final one. Yeah, this is the one. But even like the closed calls, the more of those that you get, the more likely you're going to get something. You know what I mean? So it's awesome what we can do if we, as long as we keep on getting those close calls, and you know, eventually those close calls are going to land a deal. Oh yeah, my ARV was like 577 conservative on this property. So the guy wanted 600,000. The ARV was 577, and that's very, very conservative. You probably could get more. Probably could get 600 plus on this one. But yeah, that's. Let me hear. Let's see. Let me get the one pager. Here we are. So buying at 400, because that's where if you're in the mindset of wholesaling, right? If you can get the flipper 50,000, okay, so real quick, if you can get the flipper like 10% of the ARV, they're usually that's a pretty good deal. If it's like and I wouldn't recommend even looking at a deal unless you're going to make $10,000 from it. So like start with 10,000, and then if the numbers make sense to make 20, 30, 40 on the wholesale fee, then awesome. So you're looking at 10% for the flipper, and then, or yeah, 10% of the ARV for the flipper, and then a minimum 10,000 for you as the wholesaler. If that's the strategy you're going for. So if he holds it at 400, assuming, I mean, even taking away the partnerships or whatnot, but if he holds it for 400,000, the flipper's gonna make 55,000. I mean, so he could probably wholesale this thing for 410, maybe even 415, and make like a $15,000-$20,000 wholesale fee on this bad boy, which is super cool. Because there's some flippers that are happy with 40,000 on it or whatever, right? So that's really cool. And because if he's doing a partnership, so if he just flips it himself, you know, when you look at this, so what is the money cost on this one? So we have here, let's just do cowboy math on this because this is kind of cool. I like talking shop like this stuff. It's awesome. So 390, or it'll actually be 400. So let's do 400.
Are you sharing your screen?
I thought I was. Am I not sharing my screen?
I see the calculator, 80.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So hard money, what? They usually do 80%, right? 80% of purchase. So if it's 6 months hold, it's like with the 2% of points and then 6% for the 6 months, 25,000. So by doing a partnership, the profit goes up by 25,000, 25,600. And if he, so I don't know why I erased that, plus 55,000, right? I guess I can just do it in my head. But so 80,000, I think, depending on what the guy wants, right? He's probably going to take a little bit more. Maybe he'll take a little bit, like 30,000 extra or something, or a third of it or something. But like with the partnership, like the overall profit on this deal is like 80,000. And so I think he's going to take, yeah, so 26,000. It's almost the same thing as far as like financing, but less risk. And this is a perfect example. So let's say the homeowner, it is a partnership on this deal, right? So they're not you're not actually selling the property. So when you're doing partnerships like this, it's like, okay, cool, let's do a partnership. And we're gonna do it as if I bought it from 380. We're gonna do all of the costs. You got to do all the P&Ls of that deal, just like you would for like a money lender, just like a money partner, like equity partner. And you're showing them what you spent, what you did, and what the end result is, and then they get that percentage of the equity. So you'd have to do a joint venture with the homeowner, and this is something you'd want to get your attorney to draw up. You don't want to just like let's have this. It's not something I would recommend having your ChatGPT write up a contract for you. Because the thing is, you're entering a partnership with somebody you don't really know that well, so you need to make sure that everything's in writing and it's and that they're like a third party, not third party, but effectively a silent partner, and explaining that like if we do this partnership, like I'm going to be making all the calls. This is what I do for a living. Because it's their home that they lived in, so they're gonna have their opinions. So there's those headaches that's gonna happen, depending on the person, but as long as you explain it, everything's in writing, what they're responsible for is to provide the property and then shut up. Not necessarily that exactly, but you know what I mean? You don't necessarily want their opinion. They don't know anything in this industry, I should say, or how to flip a house or what's really needed. He thought the house that was worth 400,000 that he can get 600,000 for. So obviously he doesn't know, but it knows enough to open up partnerships. So if this guy comes in and he makes an extra $26,000, is effectively buying the property from him at 415, 416, and you're getting a deal with no interest, effectively. Does that make sense? Because we're not actually buying it, so the closing cost goes away on the purchase, I should say. Closing, escrow, title insurance, that goes away. That's an extra $6,000 there. So even though paying out a little bit extra, I think overall he's gonna make a lot more money by doing a partnership. And he has the funding, so he just needs to come up with a rehab. That's it.
I have another question.
Yes.
Is this strategy? It's not the first time I've heard it, of course, but equity sharing with the seller. But is it? This seems like okay. So my mind is thinking, why would you just not do this with anybody who's sort of on the fence, as long as there was enough meat on the bone that you could still make your 10,000 plus or whatever. If you could make it worth it. I mean, it seems like that we could get a lot more deals done if we did do it that way. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I don't know if you're getting more deals done, but I mean, this is another tool. I don't necessarily offer this very often. One is, so in the drive, like I'm executive validator, something executive. Like if I'm not in control of the deal when I'm doing it, like it's kind of like I hate it. I don't like it. And there's plenty of deals I've been like that, I've been the silent partner and maybe put in funds or whatever, and that's fine. But I don't like it. I like to be in control. That's part of my drive, right? Right. What makes me feel important, and that's just me, my personality, right? So I'm not a big fan of maybe not being 100% in control in certain situations, right? So then it's like, and then you're entering in a partnership with someone you don't really know and doesn't know the business,
Right.
and you're going to be making changes to that person's home that they lived in for the past 20 years or something. So they're going to have their own opinions. They're going to be, you know what I mean? It's going to be, and I think that's fine. I mean, you just have to prime them ahead of time and have everything in writing and have all your ducks in a row as far as like, that's what I'm saying. Like something like this, you definitely want to have like an attorney draw up the contracts. You want to have, with the joint ventures, all of that stuff taken care of, by a professional. It may cost you $1,000 more than you were. It may cost you $1,000 more, or probably like $500 or whatever. But still, it's like you're still going to save so much more money by doing this. And even if it's the same thing if I do an equity partner. They're, instead of them charging me interest, they're getting a percentage of the profits, which is cool, great, awesome. But usually equity partners they kind of understand their role in it, versus someone that I don't know, they may not fully understand it. So I think you can get really, really good at something like this and offering this. Like this could be your go-to. You could be the partnership gal, or
Right.
the partnership investor. That could be like
Partnership partner.
Partnership
Yeah,
partner.
I mean, I would only really want to do it like not on every single one, but like if someone's,
Sure.
On the fence, not really wanting to, but you could tell it would be really good, then it makes sense in that. And I see what you're saying too, but it does sound like a big hassle. I don't know. I would almost want to say, I can do this with you, but I'm going to be the one making all the decisions. Like you said, get your ducks in a row, but maybe something like that where you say, I'm going to be making decisions on things that we're going to be doing to your house that will be in the best interest, blah, blah, blah. But you won't have any say in the matter or something like that. But
yeah, because and I'll do it. And like, so listen, there's gonna be things that I'm gonna make. This is what I do for a living. And there's reasons why we do certain things, reasons we paint in certain ways, reasons why we would knock out a wall versus not knock out a wall, and the cost and whatnot. Why we would put new countertops versus just fixing them up or whatever. And there's gonna be I'm going to do things that you disagree with, and like say that from the get go. I will be doing things that you will not like about this property. I almost guarantee it. And so in order for us to proceed, you would have to trust that I know what I'm doing. And this is a hassle in writing that I'm more than happy to receive your feedback because you know this house, you know this area. That's more than happy to receive your feedback. But at the end of the day, I'm making that final call because I'm putting the money for the rehab. And this is something that I do as a daily business. So like there has to be a little bit of trust here as well. So I'm trusting you that, with as far as like the partnership goes, like I'm not actually buying the property, it's still in your name, so there could be shenanigans you could do on your end. I'm trusting you're not going to do those things, but I'm going to do what I can to put everything in the contract. So to protect me, and I'm going to put stuff in the contract to protect you. And so we're all happy, we're good on all ends. And so I think having like priming the person so they understand what that looks like, and that there will be times, it's not if I'm gonna do some, and maybe throughout the whole process, like they don't care, like yeah, sure, this, let me know when we get something under contract or whatever, and then that's that, right? Or they're going to be very, very involved. They want to see everything, and so you can kind of sometimes you can kind of get a feel for the person, like how involved they would want to be, and so just explaining what your role is, and so yes, this has potential of more headaches, but it has the potential, like you said, Rachel, to get more people over that hump of doing something like this. So this could be something like where they're really money oriented. They really need to get there, or they're trying to get more money, and that's why they want to kind of do something like this. But it's like, okay, cool. And if there's a mortgage on it, I would negotiate like, yeah, you need still make those payments. Like I know you're up to date now and that you're selling it, but as part of this transaction, I want you to still make those payments.
Yeah, you could almost probably put something in the contract that said if the person didn't make the payments, then whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
You can have
Thank
penalties.
you.
You can do whatever your imagination is your only limit as far
Right.
as what you would do in a deal like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I say all the kind of like the negative potentials of partnerships, but there's some really cool things you can do. Because I think overall, I mean, most people, if they're okay with doing a partnership, that they are trusting, like, okay, cool, yeah, it's going to be in Brian's hands, it's going to be in Rachel's hands and Courtney's hands, and I'm ready to, I can just pass. So any deal we do, there are headaches involved. If I'm wholesaling, there's headaches involved with that. I don't necessarily enjoy the headaches that are involved with doing a flip. So that's one of the reasons why I like to wholesale a lot. I'm not too, I mean, so you're going to have a headache one way or another. Just got to choose your headache. That's it. And I can't remember what instructor said that, but yeah, that's in a nutshell, right? But that's a good strategy to get people over the hump, is just doing partnership. And when you're doing that partnership, because like there's no like set price, so it's almost, you'd have to do we can go real deep into this, guys, if you want, or we can kind of go back into like presenting the offer. I don't want to. We're already at 30 minutes in, and we really haven't talked about like presenting an offer. But you guys want to keep on talking about like how to structure a deal like this with a partnership, or do you guys want to go back into like how to present your offer, even with with creative financing or not?
I'd like to know both. So if you want to shelf this till next week, that's fine. But could you do it at some point?
Yeah.
That sounds good to me too. I mean, I'm glad we talked about it, but I don't want to disrupt what you already had planned.
Well, I mean, and it's okay if this is something that you guys want to learn more about. I am okay. We can still talk about how to present your offer and whatnot to the seller, right? So,
do you think after you talk to him and have the details, we could talk about it? Because I know you know it entirely, but to hear the specifics of one that actually functionally is occurring currently makes it so much more attainable feeling, as opposed to like a lesson. Yeah. So maybe after you and him kind of like step a day or two further into it, if you could follow up with us and lay it out.
Yeah, we can talk about like on Monday too, because we're talking today. So yeah, I think that'd be great. It'd be good insight for people. But kudos to him for getting that done, because he took action. That's the thing, guys. Like, you don't have to be perfect. You're not going to be, and even all these tactics that I'm going over on negotiations. Like, you guys heard me negotiate several deals on the calls and in this games and last games and the first games. You guys see me. I've negotiated multiple seller financing deals on these calls, even straight up from a cold call. You've seen and heard me do it. The thing is, like, I don't do every single time, right? There's some things I probably should be doing. Maybe I didn't do that time or whatever, right? My point of me saying this, like, all of these tactics, what I'm saying as far as like mirroring and active listening, those kind of things are so helpful. But even if you don't mess up and you don't do it enough or whatever, like, you can still land the deal. Like, you don't have to be perfect. I really want to hit home on that too, right? Because even myself, that's successfully negotiated well over 150 transactions, and then unsuccessfully negotiated a lot more than that. Trust me. You know what I mean? So yeah, my point being is, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hit every single note on this stuff. It's just a matter of like honing in on those skills, using those skills as much as you can, doing like what Rachel's doing as far as like, I'm gonna do some mirroring on my husband and get him to pull up, actually communicate better with me and get more information, which is awesome. We should be doing that stuff with our people, with people that we're talking to. Try active listening when someone's telling you something. Like, repeat back what they said, summarize it real quick in a sentence or two, and they're going to feel so much better. You're going to build up such a better rapport with them, even if somebody for a long time. They're going, oh, okay, yeah, cool, all right, Brian understands me now, I'm good. Or yeah, Courtney, really, we connected there. It was awesome, because they felt heard. So that's huge. So yesterday we talked a lot about like how to get to past service level concerns. If you guys get really good at getting down to the root core, the emotion part of it, of why they need to sell, why would they want to sell, and it's not just about money, it's rarely about money, you're not gonna have to deal with as many objections as you are dealing with right now. Because the best way to overcome an objection is to prevent it overall, just in general. Because there's always something behind that objection. Sometimes they just don't understand the process, especially if you're talking about, creative financing. So you do have to explain some stuff. But if you're going through and you're getting past the surface level of what their pain point is, and past the surface level of what their carrot is, what they're trying to, how would it feel once they accomplish what they're, selling the property and able to have them enough money to pay off that truck or do whatever the next step is, they're going to be like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. While 30 minutes before they were saying I wouldn't take anything less than 600, but they're okay now taking 390,000. So it's incredible what you can do as long as you get past that service level. So we talked a lot about that yesterday and how to get that using the mirror techniques, using active listening and just asking a lot of questions. Oh, and my camera just pooped on me. Hang on. There we go. But so the next thing I want to talk about is how to present the offer. So once you find out what the carrot and stick is, what's their pain point, and what would they do once they sell it? So what if unfortunately if we're not able to buy this property in the time frame you need, what's going to happen? Once we find out what that really is and what that means emotionally, well, I would lose my house. That's not the main concern. It is a concern, but what does that mean to them emotionally? What does that mean? How would that make them feel? Okay. Oh, you sold this property, so now you don't have to live with your mother-in-law anymore, and now you have some money. You can get an apartment. You don't have foreclosure on your credit report anymore, or not anymore, but it never went to foreclosure, so that's never gonna show up, other than like late payments and whatnot, and it's default. But so they're able to eventually get into a house sooner, or they're getting into an apartment, or they can pay off certain debts or whatever. And how will it feel that they can save face and move on and not have these problems and actually get what they're trying to accomplish? So like now we have these two things. We have the carrot and their stick, right? So now they don't have the stick's gone and we have the carrot. They're able to get the carrot. So when you're giving them, so this is why you don't necessarily want to give like your number right away. Giving your number right away is like when you're first having a conversation. Yeah, okay, well, what's your offer? If you're sitting down with someone, you have an appointment, and they do say, like, this is kind of going backwards, but towards the beginning, if they're saying like, yeah, just tell me the number. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not quite too sure if this is a house that we're even interested in purchasing, or even if we can help you or not. So as we just need to know, ask you a couple questions, just get a better understanding of your situations, to see if our offer would even work for you or not. And then just start asking the questions. Like, tell me about your situation. Tell me, have them start talking about their situation, why they would want to sell this beautiful house. So that started the whole thing. So we should be asking the questions and getting past the point for the most part. So once we have that information, what I like to do, like if I have a notebook, if I'm sitting there face to face, okay, so face to face negotiations, belly to belly. I like to have my notebook, or if I have my phone, I have my flip phone and my pen that I write with on it and with my notes. I like to use this as a tool. And so what I'll do is, because I already kind of at this point I already know what my number is, but that's okay, right? Because I'm gonna write down I'm gonna start doing some math, some figures, and just I let them sit for like 30 seconds. If I'm like face to face, they can see me, I can see them. Let me do some numbers real fast and see what I can get you. And I'll just start, getting my calculator out, or just doing some math and just figuring things out, and just let them sit. This one gives them an indication, and sometimes like I'm doing like real numbers. If I'm going to offer seller financing, I'm like on the amortization calculator and doing all of that. When I'm doing the seller, yeah, let's do the cash, and then we'll go to seller financing. How do we do that? Okay, so after like a 30 seconds or so, which will fill again, silence is your best friend here. So you're letting them sit there for a minute, and then you're like, okay, great, awesome. This is great. I think I have a solution for us. for us, for not for you, for us. Okay. So we need to talk in we's and us when you're in this part, or or the whole, as much as you can, honestly. Because what is a typical mindset of like, this guy's gonna try to buy my house. What are we? Are we partners, or are we enemies, or are we trying to, fight each other? What's the typical reaction? Like we're against each other, right? If I'm trying to buy Natalie's house and then we're sitting face to face, it's kind of like Bob Snyder does a great job in his negotiation class talking about this. But it's like a me versus you, which we don't want. We want us versus the crappy situation you're in. Us versus this foreclosure. Us versus your medical bills. Us versus your divorce. Us versus you just want to sell the house and don't want to deal with any headaches. It's us versus that, whatever their challenge is. Okay? Great. Awesome. I think I have a solution. And even if it's like $200,000 less than they were asking, it doesn't matter. You found a solution to the problem. This is awesome. Okay. Do you remember how you told me, and you say what their pain point was in their words as close as you possibly can? Do you remember how you told me that you were really concerned, like if you couldn't sell this property and that you actually would lose it and go into foreclosure, and it left that kind of that failure feeling, like you mentioned earlier to me? Well, this offer, so we can stop that and prevent all of those feelings and that outcome from happening. I have an offer for you, and it's $391,875.12. We talked about this yesterday too. You want to be and again, this is something I don't do as well as I possibly should, but when you give specific numbers like that, like 391,875,000, especially after they've seen you like do real math, and like they're not like looking at what you're writing or whatever, but and even on the phone, on Zoom, like just like, let me do some numbers real fast. I want to give you an offer right now. Since we had time to talk, I want to kind of get the numbers straight. So I don't want to give you the wrong numbers and have to change it down the road. So when you give them that exact number, it's so much harder to negotiate against it. It may be like, that number doesn't work for me, can't do it. Okay, cool. Versus like, yeah, can you come up like 40,000 on this bad boy, or what would I would love to, but I mean, I gave my highest and best from the get-go, and the 391 is the best I can do. So that's like the cash offer. Okay, so right. Let me back up a little. So now we know like the specific number. So do you remember how you told me about the pain point, how you would feel failure, blah 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 blah? We can buy your property and fix that problem, that challenge that you may have, and give you guys $391,875.12, so that, and whatever their carrot was, so that you'll have enough money after the sale to have enough for moving expenses, to pay off that debt you were telling me, to give a debt deposit on your new apartment you're getting, or whatever it is. Do you remember pain point? To stop that, offer, so that, carrot. Do you remember what you said? Pain point. To stop that, prevent that, offer, so that, carrot.
That's nice. Nice sandwich.
Okay? That you want to sandwich the offer in there. And so it's not about the numbers. It's never about the numbers. It's all about the emotion behind the numbers. We used the example yesterday with Rachel. If I gave her a couple $1 million, she'd be ecstatic, be awesome. But if I gave her a couple $1 million, she couldn't leave. A couple $1 million, and she couldn't leave one room, didn't have internet. That pile of money would do nothing for her. It's just money. So we care about what the money does for us, not the actual money. If we actually show them that this offer can fix those problems that they would have used the money for anyways, and they can sell right now and not have to worry about any of those challenges, oh, it makes sense now. Yeah, okay, cool. If I just would have gave them an offer of 391,000 and they're looking to get 600, they're like, look at this guy trying to manipulate me and trying to, take advantage of what a terrible person he is and blah, 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 whatever. This guy believe in whatever the story you're going to say in their heads. But now they're seeing it in a different light. It's not, again, it's not about the numbers. It's about fixing the problems, fixing the challenges. That's really what it comes down to. Any questions on sandwiching offer between the carrot and the stick, on their pain point and what they're looking on their what they want to happen? Nothing? Clear as mud? Okay. All right. So now for creative financing, how do I offer that? Right. Here's another thing too, as far as negotiations, there's something called anchoring. I know we've talked about anchoring before, but this is how you put it in practice. But just so everyone that's on the same page of what anchoring is, can someone explain to me what anchoring is, if someone's comfortable enough? I'd love to get, so it's just not me all talking, but yeah, let's
I think I can.
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
So I love this concept. So basically you start off with or when it's time to say a number that you would offer, you make it really low so that they kind of in their mind understand that, okay, if that's where we're starting, it's almost like in their head, they think if that's where we're starting it at, that's too low, but maybe if I could do X, Y, Z a little bit higher, they would be happy with that. So it gets their mind prepped to automatically accept a lower number, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that concept.
It's also, and it works the opposite direction too. So like using Eric as an example, like when he listens to this, like, you guys talk nothing about me. So that seller anchored Eric into a higher price point where that 390 was like, he felt some like, that's way too low. But if we would never even, if we didn't know what his asking price point was, like, yeah, you didn't offer 390. Okay. That would have been his reaction. Like, okay, that makes sense. The numbers make sense. I'm going to offer 390. He wouldn't have had any feelings with that at all, because 390 is a reasonable offer for that property. And so that it works reverse, right? Because the seller, whether knowingly or not knowingly, anchored him in a higher price point. It felt so if he didn't know any better, that's why a lot of people they're like, oh shoot, he wants 600 for this property, man. I probably offer, 500,000 is probably the most I possibly could do, and then they start negotiating against themselves and offering a lot more than what they're looking for. So anchoring in a lower price point is massive. As a Walmart manager for 12 years, I've seen it all the time. If I have this drink and this drink on sale or it's $5 for this 16 ounces soda, $5, that's crazy. I don't want to pay $5 for one drink. Get out of here. But when I put a was price on it, this was or this can is $5 now, but it was $8 a week ago. So it was $8, now $5. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to spend $5. It seems like a lot, but it's a lot better than $8. So the stores, they anchor you in a higher price point. That's why they show the was prices. There's a reason for it. Psychology. They're anchoring you on a higher price point. That's what they do. And that's why, like, before a Black Friday, guess what they do? They'll raise the prices for a certain period of time, a month or so, and then they'll lower the price so they can have a was price that's dramatically high. So they'll raise the price, anchor it, and then now when they sell it like Black Friday or do sales or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, this TV was $2,000, but now it's only $100. I don't know, whatever, some stupid thing. But at one point in time, it really was price pointed at $2,000, and then they just dropped the price back to the original price of the $100. That's a little dramatic, but still, you get my point, right? So with doing it, so in practice with anchoring of numbers, you can anchor them to a lower. So one strategy Rachel mentioned was like, you can just give them a low offer, and that'll anchor them. So when you do get your real offer, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a lot better than that lower price point. I like to anchor them in a lower price point without me giving them a lowball offer. So if they're selling the property, well, of course they're selling property. So if they've been trying to sell the property, and maybe it's for sale by owner, it's on the market, I'll ask them. So have you had many offers coming up? Have you had many offers giving you sending anything like that? And if they're like, yeah, I've been getting a bunch of low balls. You know, that's what you hear a lot from for sale by owners. I've been getting a lot of low ball offers, kind of terrible. Like, oh yeah, I bet I can imagine. What was some of those offers? I'm just curious. And if a lot of them will tell you, sometimes they don't want it, but they tell you like they tell you the low offer, like, oh wow, yeah, that is pretty low. Now you're using someone else's low ball offer to anchor them because you're just talking about it. Now that's in their head.
You're a
Yeah,
magician.
so someone's offering you 200,000, like, oh yeah, that's way too low. Yeah, you shouldn't take that at all, right? Maybe no one hasn't, or they don't want to say anything. You can say things like, I know some other investors that probably would offer you, then say the lowball offer, like maybe 250 for this property. You didn't lowball them. You're saying that you know plenty of investors that would offer that. I bet you probably could find someone that would offer that, right? We're not being dishonest. It's like yeah, guarantee, like I promise you, there's someone that's going to offer that give you a lowball offer if they knew it was for sale. So you're anchoring them to a lower price point without actually giving them and because there's like, oh, you're just lowballing me. How, you know, then there's like this distrust that's created in something like that, right? So now you're using someone else's number, or you know someone that probably you can. So maybe they haven't had any offers. You're the first one that called, actually had a conversation with them, and then you can say, yeah, I know some other investors that probably would have offered you like 250 for this property. It's kind of crazy that they do something like that, but yeah, it's interesting. And so now you mentioned, so you put it out there, and so and even still, like when I'm really trying to get seller financing on a deal, like sometimes my cash offer, like it's going to be like a real number, but it's going to be a lot lower than my seller financing offer. So I'm anchoring even there. So then when I say my 391, it's a lot higher than the 350 or 200s or whatever that I anchored them beforehand. Does that make sense? So now we're talking about all these lower numbers instead of like the 600 mark that he was looking for, using that as an example. You're anchoring them to feel like this is it's a better deal than what they were thinking, because it really is. Like, that's the real numbers. Like, someone's not gonna, if after it's all fixed up and the ARV was 577, no one's gonna give him $600,000 for a property that needs another $100,000 in rehab. Not happening. Sorry, no one's gonna do that. So it's not manipulating, it's just helping them see the reality of it. Okay, great. Now we're talking about, okay, so at this point, let's just say like they really can't. Maybe they can't do your cash offer. Maybe maybe they owe 400, and your real max offer is 390. Okay, cool. So if they were trying to get to the 600 mark, okay, and again, at this point, we already know the pain points. We know the carrot. We know the stick. You know, like if it just doesn't make sense for the cash offer, right? Or they don't want it, or like, yeah, we possibly could do something like that, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? I know you're trying to get, you know, a lot higher than that 391. If there was a way where I can get a lot closer to your price point, would that be something you'd be interested in having a conversation about? So you're getting permission to continue, to give them another option. Of course they're gonna say, oh yeah, well of course. You should have led with that, man. Yeah, tell me. You know, whatever they're gonna say. But it's gonna be positive. Like, yeah, tell me. How do you do that? What do you mean? And that's when we bust out the amortization calculator. So whether it's on your phone, or maybe you've already figured out the numbers beforehand before you sat down and talked to them. Share my screen real fast.
Hey, as
Yes.
you're discussing this, can you throw in there like kind of, how do you figure out? I mean, obviously, I know the numbers have to work, but how do you figure out like how much above your number, closer to their number that you're trying to get to?
Wait, so what do you mean? Sorry, was that, so how do we figure out the above, like the, how much they're actually going to receive if you do seller financing? Is that what you're
Right,
saying?
like yeah, like do you first figure out like the if he wanted 600 but you could only get 391, now you're going to
Yeah.
start with creative financing. How do you get your calculator? I understand how the calculator works, but like, are you thinking of giving him like what amount would be good enough? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously it's not a one answer fits everybody. I understand
Yeah.
that everybody's different. Like how do you kind of figure out where to start with, help? I just don't understand how to
I'll show
what
you.
the
I
amount
think I understand your
is.
question.
Okay,
Let
thank
me, let
you.
me,
I don't even understand my question. Thank you.
let me, here, let's do this. Let me share it so it's easier for people to see. Okay. All right. So with amortization calculator, we talked about apps, we talked about websites you can use, Excel, worksheets, whatever. When I'm talking about like if I can, how can I get them closer to that 600 range? If that was like a major concern, this is where you play with numbers, and this is the beforehand, like maybe a good homework assignment for you guys would be like to grab an amortization calculator and just play with the numbers, and I'll do it right here to show you what I'm referring to when I say play with the numbers. So let's just say, so if I can offer maybe a little bit more if it's seller financing, so we'll say 400,000 instead of the 390, but they're trying to get closer to 600 range. If when you're factoring in interest and how much interest is going to be charged, like, so I'll play with the interest number. So we'll say 5.85 with a 30-year loan and within 5 years. Okay. At that point, it's like, you know what, if I may, instead of me doing all one lump sum, and we actually started making payments to you instead of making a payment with a bank and paying you interest, because you're going to charge me interest over the course of the next 5 years, I'm actually going to pay you an extra $113,000 than you would have if I just buy this in cash. 115,000. So this is the number we're talking about here. So like the total interest paid over 5 years because of the 5-year balloon. So that's the total. So like when we're looking here, like total amount, I can I get it closer to 513,000. Now let's just say like they're adamant. I need a walkway with 16. When we play with, okay, what if it was a 10-year balloon? What does that look like? So instead of 5 years, they get paid out in 10. They're going to get an extra 216,000 over the next 10 years. So they'll be walking away when all is said and done, when add up all the payments and the actual end payment in 10 years, they're gonna be total receiving is 616,000 and change. So what if I can get over that 600,000? Would that be something you'd be interested in? Well, yeah, of course it is. That's what I want. Oh, great. So this is how we do it. So I got to get a loan from this. I don't have 600,000 or 400,000 in my back pocket. So I would actually have to get a loan from a bank anyways. And I got to pay the interest anyways. So instead of paying to some banker that I may or may not dislike or not, instead of having to pay to some big corporation, I'd love to pay it to someone like you that's a good, honest, hardworking person and give them the interest instead of to some bank that doesn't give me any interest back, right? So I would buy the property at the 400,000, and then I'd make payments to you. And because you are going to charge me interest just like the bank would over the course of the next 10 years, I'm going to pay you an extra $216,000 in interest, which would make the total amount that you're receiving over the next 10 years $616,000. Does that make sense, guys? What we're going with? So
That's
this is where we're
pretty
playing the numbers. So let's just say they don't want to wait 10 years. They like the 5-year. The 5 years like the max. Okay, what number can we play with until then? Like, all right, if they still, because in 5 years at 5.8% interest, I'm I'm only paying them 100, 113. So if I had to go up in interest, now there are some factors in here, like obviously if the payments are too high for the cash flow or whatever, there's a whole lot of things you want. But this is like the general idea how to work it, right? If I increase the interest, that's going to increase the amount of interest I'm paying over the next 5 years. So maybe it's not quite going up to 7%, isn't quite extra, get us to the 600 range, but it'll sure as heck get us to the $136,000, which is an extra, $36,000 than we were beforehand. So like 5.85, 513, and then 7 is like 5. So an extra 25,000, 23,000 bucks just by, changing the interest rate. Keep in mind, like as you're changing these type of numbers, like it is affecting other numbers. So like knowing like if one exit strategy is a rental, and the rents are only 1,500 or whatever, then yeah, this is gonna be kind of hard to swallow, right? So another thing is too, like what if you put it at a longer amortization? You guys, you can do it longer than 30 years, right? You can have the payments as if it's 40 years and a 5-year balloon. So the payment, so maybe they really are adamant about, certain, like they want 7% interest, like for sure, but that makes the payment too high for you. So like, okay, what if I stretch it out to 50 years as the amortization as if it was 50-year loan, but then in 5 years the note's due. So just by changing that, it reduces the payment, and I'm paying a little bit more in interest because all the amortization calculator pushes the interest up front. So the longer it is, the more time you're paying interest at the very beginning of the loan, or more interest than principal. So it actually increases the amount of interest that they're receiving overall within that 5-year time frame, even though the payment went down. If I lost some of you guys, please tell me.
A little bit. I have a
little
question.
bit. Okay, yeah.
So when you spread it from 30 to 40 to 50, it ends up increasing the number that's on that right now looks at 139,000.
Yes.
That ticks up over the time period. And the whole thing is due at if you keep to the 5-year balloon.
Yep.
Anyway, so they're still essentially getting it. It's not like spreading it out doesn't still give it to them. You're not cutting it short, you're just putting it at that piece. Okay. And then if you can have the monthly payment be underneath a number that cash flows by adjusting these numbers, and they generally are getting the total interest at the end because that's inside of the balloon payment, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the longer you push out the loan, as far as like what the amortization scale is, like it's going to reduce the payment and increase the interest that they're receiving. It's very similar if you just kept it at 30 and then increase the interest. You can do something like that too, but this also is like, okay, cool, that we're going to do it this way. So it's like when you really get really good at figuring out, like understanding this calculator when you're offering seller financing, that's when you can do some cool stuff as far as like creating the deal and matching whatever that need was that they had. Like they really are adamant about getting, as close to 600 as possible. And I'm not going to pay more than 400. Okay, this is how we would do something like this. What about interest only? Go ahead.
Does this solve the objection of I don't want to be doing this in 40 years? I don't know if I'm going to live 30 years, all of that stuff, because the endpoint is 5 years or 10 years, regardless. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, putting a balloon on it is typical. Ideally, I don't want a balloon. I mean, if I'm doing longer than 30 years, like there's usually a balloon on it if I ever even consider changing that number. Usually I play with the interest rate, or even if it's like, okay, what if what if there's enough spread in there where I can increase it by 10,000, for example? What does that do with the numbers over the course of time? So again, it's just like tweaking things here and there and keeping the payments in. What if it's like you want to do interest only? So what does that look like? Like you need your payments a lot lower. Like if that's like a big concern and they don't want to do 100 years, that sounds scary, even though the balloon payment's in 10, whatever. If they're concerned with that, like, because then I hit what they're more focused on, or I hit with what they're going to receive more than like the small details, like 100-year balloon amortized as if it was a 100-year loan. Like that's kind of I've never even offered a 100-year mortgage, so I don't know why I'm going to that, but still, regardless, if let's say you're tweaking that, you go to 40 years, and like because 40 is different than 30, there may be a little bit like what, but you're when you're talking to them, yeah. So I mean, I'm purchasing the property at 410, because you're charging me interest, and if we did the loan as if it was like a 30-year loan, but I had to pay you all the way back within 5 years, or at or before the 5 years, the interest I'd be paying at the end of the 5 years, when you add everything up, is like 141,000. So you're getting 141,000 than what my original offer was, and you're getting 551,000 because of that. When you
Did
add
you
up
notice a
everything,
minute ago?
interest and everything. What was that?
Sorry, did you notice a minute ago your balloon payment is essentially the same as your loan principal amount? So not whether it's positive or negative, you could still phrase it as you're literally going to get the entire payment at your balloon payment. All the
Yeah.
money you make in between is just collecting money, because it was like $399 in balloon and like $400 in principal.
I mean, this is, I mean, the longer it goes and interest rate and things like that, like a lot of the stuff that we're paying, 2,500, that's principal and interest. That's not like insurance and taxes. None of that. It's principal and interest only. So yeah, that balloon payment's like almost $400,000. So it's like, yeah, remember I said I'm buying at 410. In 5 years, you're going to get a check for almost $400,000, and you received over $141,000 in interest over the next 5 years. So it's kind of like that's the beauty of this. You can kind of focus on what their needs are, what their situation is to fix the problem, and playing with the numbers like this, you can create the deal that makes sense.
Is this one with no down payment?
Yeah. On this scenario, no
so your
down
monthly
payment.
payment is your first down payment? Okay.
Yeah.
So what if you have the objection if they want some money for their next place? Is this just not the right scenario?
I guess I mean, we possibly do something like that. How much were you thinking? That's my response.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I mean, and if it's like, and so when you wince at it, like, I mean, even though like you're like, yeah, they're probably gonna ask for down payment or something like that, then I mean, I think so. I had a guy, we negotiated a deal. Oh my gosh, I keep dropping that. I had a guy when we did a deal, and it was we didn't mention down payment at all until he finally brought it up. I was like, can we do like he didn't even know what it was like. He even like called it right. It says like, can we do like some money up front or something like that? Like he knew what he wanted, but didn't know the name of it. I was like, yeah, I mean, we possibly could do something like that. I mean, I'm not too sure. The numbers are already tight as it is. What were you thinking? And he said 20,000. And inside, I'm like, sweet, I can do that. Kick butt, let's do it. But what he heard was 20,000. Gosh, that's a little more than I was hoping for. What if we did something? I mean, would you be okay if we did something like 10,000 instead of the 20? And then we ended up negotiating it where it was like 10,000 the first, like the down payment 10,000, but then the first payment, which was 30 days later, it was going to be a $5,000 payment instead of a $2,500 payment. So basically got the down payment to like $1,200 or $1,300 basically when he's asking for 20. So like even though I would have been happy doing the 20, like that still would have made sense. But if you winced at it and it's like, maybe, even though like they say something that's great and awesome. And also here's the thing, people want a story. They want a story. If you're like, oh yeah, great, we can do that. What's the first thought they're thinking? Like, oh, I should have said more. That's the first thought they're going to think. I should have said more. Now they feel like they're almost like getting taken advantage of. But it's like, hey, this guy, we weren't going to do any down payment, but I got him to do like $1,300 in down payment or $13,000 in it for a down payment that I got. Freaking awesome. I'm the best negotiator in the world. Other people are offering me 250, but I got this guy to buy it at 400, even though his asking price was 600. You're giving them stories. You're giving them like the battlefield that they won on. They can tell people, or just know. Does that make sense? So even though like wincing at like I would have been fine at $20,000, like it's still he's gonna be happier with that $13,000 than he would if he got 20. I'm not even kidding. If I would have said, yeah, we do that, sure, awesome. There's gonna be some of that buyer's remorse, like, oh, I should have said more, or maybe he'll come back to me later on, like, can we do more on the down payment? And now that he's anchored on the 20, me like to leave it at the 20 or get less than 20, like that's a very uphill battle. And so now I'm gonna be end up doing like 25,000 down or whatever, right? To get to satisfy, to make this deal work, right? Or to get him happy. Does that make sense? So even with down payments, then just my purchase price is still 410 in this example, but he wants $20,000 down payment. Like, yeah, sure, I can do that. Let's say we did that. Cool. It does reduce the amount of interest that he's going to receive, but it still makes, you just got to factor that in, what the loan amount is. So you just minus the down payment with your purchase price. There you go. So don't focus when you're saying seller financing. Don't focus on the purchase price. Focus on the amount that they're receiving. Dave talked about this in the last season about what you want to talk to them about. Like, what are they actually going to get at the end of the day? What are they walking away with? How much are they actually receiving? The total amount paid. Like, you want to focus more on the total amount paid versus what the purchase price is. So when all things said and done, after all the payments within that 5 years, you're going to be walking away at almost 525,000. Maybe as I'm playing with numbers, I'm going to up the purchase price to $400. So then I can say 530,000, because that sounds a lot better than 529,000. That makes sense? It's just those little things that makes, and if you don't do those little things, you can still land deals. These are just like, there's good, better, and best. Good, better, and best, right? So there's practices. You're going to find deals if you're just on the good path, and you're going to find even better deals if you're doing the better stuff, like those small little tweaks. And the best is like, expert level kind of thing. So don't get your head wrapped around of like, I'm more confused than I was when I first started. If you're doing some of this stuff, you're going to get more yeses than you were before.
Hey, Jared, yes. I talked to a lady who said that she was open to seller financing. And then she said, so how exactly does that work? And since I've never done it, I really did not know how to answer that question. So maybe in a future call, if you could go over the nuts and bolts, like who's in charge of money flow? Where
do we put the money? What do we? Yep. Yeah, no problem. We can do overcoming seller financing objections, which is basically exactly what you're talking about, right? In the meantime, and we can do that even Monday, right? We can talk about some of the deal creation, and then also in real numbers, like as far as partnership goes, and then also going over some objections too. But like a good audible catch-all, what you can do is this. If they're asking, so how does that exactly work? Like, yeah, I mean, I can explain it a lot better. Let me get my partner on the line, and then he can explain things a lot better. I don't want to butcher it, or even better, like, okay, yeah, I'm not entirely, whatever the question may be, I'm not entirely sure the exact detail on that, because I don't want to. I understand it, but I don't want to. I know I'm not going to explain it well enough, and I'm probably more confused more than help. So let me just get some clarification, then I'll come back and we can talk about it on this date. That calculator, by the way, Courtney, is just in Excel. You go into Excel, and then because they have templates, so you can look up templates. Because I always I'm clicking on those, so it's always there. But you can just put in there balloon loan into what the templates are. Bam, there it is, done. Or amortization calculator, and then you'll get the amortization calculator. So the balloon payment has the amortization calculator on it. The loan amortization doesn't necessarily have a balloon payment, but you can look at the what do you call it? The schedule a little more and find out how much interest is getting paid on each payment as time goes on, if you want to do something like that. But still playing with the same numbers, right? So the amount the loan is, what the interest rate is, the length of the loan, No, not doing extra payments, but what the interest rate is, what the payments are, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. Oh, I wasn't sharing my screen when I was doing all that stuff. Whatever. Anyways, but yeah, you in the templates in Excel is where I found that calculator. And there's the apps we talked about the other day, and also in just Googling or in if you're gonna Google an amortization calculator, use this one. Look, it's already 12 over. Shoot, I gotta go. This is the one we put in before, but I'll put it in now so I'll have it. Maybe I can. Oh, I'm in the wrong bookmarks. Here it is. Real estate. Nope. There it is. Mortgage loan calculator. Okay, copy. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Goodness, here it is. Okay. So everyone go in the chat if you want to save that link. I like this one because that one you can really play with some numbers with it, because you can leave a one box empty and like put in the payment you need, and then but I don't know what interest rate I need. Leave the interest rate empty and it'll fill it in. And it'll give you like that payment. So it's really cool. So definitely like save that link. Cool. What other questions do you guys have? Other thoughts? We'll call it a wrap. I think we'll go into more like overcoming objections, go more detailed on the nuts and bolts of it. Because it is hard to explain something where you don't fully understand it yourself. And if you're, I mean, most of you here are Renatus members, so like watching seller financing, the subject 2 classes, that's going to be a lot more help than me trying to explain it to you guys. But I'll still explain it. We're going to be hearing explanations from a lot people that have done a lot more deals and are more professional than I am, that's for sure. So take it if you got it, right? Okay. Awesome, guys. Well, I got to run too. And then, yeah, let's just call it a day. And then I should have all of the recordings up today. So I'll get caught up and get all of them up, especially the stuff we're talking about. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And then we'll have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jared.